Oh, hey there. Timothy Grisham, editor of the Ton magazine here, and today on Do You Even Chopper podcast, we bring you Copasetic magazine's editor Johnny A. Harris. Hey, Johnny, how's it going?
I'm good. How you doing?
Pretty good. Hey, it's really nice to talk to you. We haven't actually met, but I'm a fan of the magazine this far.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
How's it going for you?
It's slow and steady. I mean, we're only at issue 4, but uh, each issue is more successful than the last, and I hope that keeps going.
Yeah. What kind of was the genesis or the thought to start a motorcycle, hot rod, rock and roll, tattoo, skateboard magazine?
Um, well, long story short, I had a business part. Well, I still have the other guy. Copacetic is really just 2 people right now. It's me and my business partner, and I'm in Tennessee. He's in Texas,
Hmm.
but we both used to live in Texas, and when we lived together, we worked together at a big shop in Austin, and that was work that was for it was a shop slash magazine headquarters,
Uh,
and uh, did some work with that magazine, and then just got into magazines, and then my business partner had another business called Tradition Over Trend, and we wound up uh, just talking about maybe starting a magazine one day, and but I knew I really couldn't do it without adding all the extra stuff to it. Like, I mean, we're coming from the traditional world, like Hot Rod Magazine,
yeah,
Easy Rider Magazine, stuff that's automotive only. And I'm also coming from like the punk rock thrasher magazine kind of world.
yeah,
And uh, I really just wanted something that was all of it. I knew that I couldn't make anything worth, worth a damn if I didn't put whatever I was passionate into. And I love hot rods, I love choppers, and I mean that's all I've done for so many years now. But I'm not a nuts and bolts. Let's get into the ins and outs of every little detail of this bike. I'm more of a look at this piece of art. Isn't this rock and roll? Let's
yeah,
celebrate it. Let's go party. And also, just a little bit of all the stuff that we touch. We were just kind of dissatisfied with how that stuff is being covered now, or
hmm,
just the fact that whoever was covering it just went out of business or something. But
yeah,
it does seem like rock and roll is dying. Uh, I mean, when I was a kid, that's what dominated everything. Rock and roll music, rock and roll cars, rock and roll vibes. And
yeah, yeah.
now everybody's cool. Everybody's from the streets. And I'm not. It's fine if you are, but most people aren't. And we just like to have a good time. I miss rock and roll. I miss Beavis and Butthead and headbanging and heavy metal skateboarding.
Yeah, I think when I first saw the magazine, it really reminded me of some late 90s, early 2000s magazines, like a magazine called Gearhead would be one.
Oh yeah,
And then there was a couple skate magazines that were out during that time as well. So I was just wondering, like, what were the magazines that you looked at were like, okay, well, it's too bad that these aren't around anymore, but I really like the vibe of this and I like the vibe of that. And kind of how did you kind of hodgepodge it together? Because I think we all in magazines are like seeing inspiration from other print media and then just kind of putting our take on it.
yeah. I have a magazine addiction. I mean, I buy too many magazines. I mean, I have a room full of magazines, but um, automotive wise, I think the biggest influence I ever had as far as cars, hot rods, would be the original old school rods and Car Culture Deluxe.
Hmm, yeah.
Um, those were like the first hot rod magazines of my generation that focused on the people around the culture, not just this car that got built. It was
Yeah,
like,
no.
look at these people partying. You can go meet these people, be their
Yeah, for
friend.
sure. Yeah,
And
I did ads. I put ads for DVD in those. So
oh yeah,
that my buddy put out the DVD. I did the art and everything. So yeah, I'm definitely a
yeah, and
fan of the magazines.
my pal Gino, who used to run those magazines, Yeah, he's been a big inspiration. He's been a lot of help with Copacetic, give me tons of advice because I didn't know what I was doing. But um, I mean, Thrasher magazine, obviously. I mean, Thrasher is, it's the skateboarding Bible. It deserves to be that. I hope it never goes away.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, that's my business model. That's what we want to be. I mean, I think we have the same clients, the same customers, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Um,
you definitely have a lot of skate involved in it too, which is pretty killer. How's the skate scene in Chattanooga?
I mean, I mean, it's probably bigger than you imagine, but it's still pretty small. We're actually going to do an article this coming issue about the struggle the skateboarders are having with getting funds for a new skate park and the local government and all of this red tape and maybe fraud that's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm really not trying to get into real journalism,
Yeah,
but
no, I got you. I mean, Olympia, where I live, skateboarding was banned for like legally banned by ordinance for a long time, and they would chase us out of the parking garages, and the cops would snap your board in front of you, and
oh yeah,
you'd be like a young kid, you know, it'd be like $100 for a new board, which is like more money
oh yeah,
than anyone I knew had. And it wasn't really until the fucking X Games that their attitude changed, and then they put a park in, and now there's like a park in every neighborhood, I swear.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, I could totally relate having spent most of my youth having to illegally skate and then advocating for a park and no one will let you because of insurance and liability that they were afraid of. And it's like, well, kid's gonna get hurt on your doorstep rather than in a park. You're gonna get problem one way or the other. So,
yeah. I mean, skateboarding is illegal in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
oh, okay,
You can't skate on the street,
same
can't
boat.
skate on the sidewalk. So if you're going to skateboard here legally, it has to be in a park.
Yeah,
And the park they have is falling apart. It's not in the safest part of town. But
yeah, yeah. In the Jake Phelps era of Thrasher, they did an article about skateboarding illegal in Olympia, which was kind of killer to see. Came out when I was in high school, and I'm in my mid 40s now, so it's definitely an archive to try and find it. But
oh yeah,
yeah, so I mean, there's so many tangents we could go from here. I'm always interested in the transition from a skater to someone who is into motorcycles to someone who's taken photos about motorcycles and how that kind of comes about because I think that at least my hypothesis is the art style and photography, the motorcycle art style and photography of someone who is a skater is much different than someone who came at it just out of automotive or out of motorcycle industry where they have a much different view of what photography is.
oh yeah.
Kind of want to hear your thoughts on it and then like how do you approach photography because I look at some of the shot setups in Copacetic and your layouts and your dynamics are very skate photography oriented even on the bikes.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I do think all of the growing up with those skate tapes, those 90s, early 2000s skate tapes were, I mean, those low to the ground, someone skating behind the skater, holding the
Yeah.
camera a foot off the ground. Those shots, yeah, I think they stay with you, but they also show how good of an angle it shows so much stuff, especially big rear tire hot rods or something. But I remember telling someone that I don't know if you're familiar with the Hot Rod Havoc DVDs that came out like 15 years ago, but those are basically hot rod movies done like a skateboard
Yeah.
tape. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like they're pulling out of the garage as fast as fuck. Um, everything is yeah, it's just a giant skate tape just with cars. And
Yeah.
I do think that I mean, I do think in a bigger picture, Copacetic I think we're trying to acknowledge the shift in the scene, the overall scene between now that the boomers are retiring off. Um, it's all going to change. I think all of the 50s cookie cutter, nice, clean picture. I think a lot of that's going away, and I think it's all going to get very artsy and very very 70s, very 80s again,
You think it's
but
the death of
without.
the satin jacket vibe?
Yeah, I do think Elvis is dead, and I mean, I'm not
Well,
happy about it. I love Elvis, but it's over, and
yeah.
no one's no. I mean, I think everyone likes the image of a '55 Bel Air at a malt shop and somebody's with a sweater on, but no one lives that. So
No, it's 70
it's
years old now too. I
yeah,
mean, even like nostalgia for the 70s and 80s is 50, 50 years old. It's kind of
yeah,
baffling in a way because I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, there was a huge like the 1950s, like the middle school parties were like sock hops and stuff. And it's like, that's only 30 years ago. That's like someone now being like having late 90s, like we're listening to Britney Spears party because we have this nostalgia for it, which is just truly interesting to me. But I think it's just that cycle. Everyone's looking back to either before they were just before they were born or when like their parents were in their prime because of the stories they hear and kind of drives that nostalgia. But
yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean,
a
it's.
hugely nostalgic person, so I
I
mean,
mean, I didn't think I was, and then I started getting feedback about Copacetic, and I basically assemble all of these myself. I mean, my
mhm,
business partner, he helps me with the actual business side of it because I don't know anything like that. But as far as making the actual magazine, it's just me. I mean, we might have an article or two contributed in, but
yeah.
for the most part, it's me. And
Well, I
I
mean,
did. I just.
just this layout right here, it's nostalgic as you can get. Like the font, the coloring, the background. I mean, it's straight up late '90s, early 2000s thrasher
Yeah.
style. So I mean, I totally get why people would say that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that about myself. Everyone was like, "Yeah, it's a really cool retro magazine," and I'm like, but all the articles are of stuff happening right now." I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't know. I feel, and maybe it's like just total perception, but I feel like all of the magazines that are chop in quotes chopper magazines, people get that kind of comment. And maybe it's because
Yeah,
the vibe of chopper scene right now is pretty nostalgic in a lot of ways. Like we got away from the tech spec magazines and the big wheel chopper magazines when that whole thing crashed. And a lot of it's in a large part by magazines like Dice and stuff kind of putting a younger generation out there. So I think that's a common comment, but at the same time, like from a design perspective, which I'm not a trained graphic designer, but I play one on TV and a podcast. Um, I could clearly see now that you talk about your love of Thrasher, I could clearly see a design correlation of how big of an influence that is. And I would have probably have come to that eventually, but I think once you say it, it just like the dominoes fall into a certain place.
yeah, and I'm also, I mean, I guess, at the heart of it, I'm just an artistic person, and I'm very visually oriented. So I have to force myself. I have to remember this is a reading mag. I got to put words in here because I just want to put pictures everywhere. But
So how did you go from like the idea, in Texas with your buddies in the shop to the actual production of the first issue? Because I think that the first issue for us was the hardest one that we did, and from everyone I talked to, it's kind of like the first one's the hardest one. It takes the longest to put together, and you kind of fuss over it the most. I'd like to hear kind of that journey from idea to actually putting that first issue together and what that was like for you.
um, well, I mean, the good thing is I didn't really have, there was no drama because it was just me and my partner, and he wasn't going to have anything to do with, especially the first issue being done because I was already here in Tennessee,
Uh,
and I told him I would just whip up a little sample. And at first, I was just going to make like 10 of them and send them out to him and see what he thinks. But the program I learned about, because I had no idea. I mean, I couldn't have told you anything about Adobe a year ago,
Yeah.
but because I'm just I didn't I'm not a big computer person. You know, I grew up working in garages, and that's been my life. But um, I knew what I wanted to do, but I also knew my limitations. Like I knew that even though I have done, I mean, all of these are my personal interests and all of my circle of friends' interests. I mean, everyone
Hmm.
loves choppers. Everyone loves boogie vans, hot rods, punk rock, heavy metal, doom,
Yeah.
thrash, skateboarding. Pretty much everyone loves art, or at least lowbrow, kind of traditional tattoo stuff. I just feel like it's one world, and I knew if I was going to make a magazine, it would have to have everything. And also just because since I had done all of these things, I knew so many people. Like I knew if I wanted to have a magazine that focused on bands, I was already set because I feel like I know every musician in America. Because I've been in bands since I was a teenager. And
Oh yeah, yeah. I
skateboard, I
started
mean,
touring when I was a teenager.
what I'm assuming like probably a punk band.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've done different genres, but I started with like kind of your like when I was 13 with like a sloppy punk band. And then I got really into like in mid 90s garage punk was a huge kind of deal. So got really into that. Had a garage punk band called the Revlons. Perhaps you never heard of us.
No, no.
We put out a record and toured on that. And did, all the punk magazines at the time and stuff. And then shit, I was in an Oi band called Airs and Graces, and we put out some records. And one of the guys from that band went on to a band that's quite popular now. But we toured and did festivals and all that kind of stuff. Had a doom metal band, but maybe more desert rock. Everyone just kind of puts us in that lump, and that one was still going pretty strong up until the pandemic, and then we kind of just we recorded, and this is such a departure from the magazine, but it's a good story. We recorded, we finished all the basic tracking and all the overdubs in February of 2020, and then the guy locked us out of the studio for the mixing. And then by the time we got the mixing done, it was like almost New Year's, almost 2021. And at that point, it just looked like touring wasn't going to happen for a while. And like you already started kind of fucking writing new songs and stuff, you've already moved on mentally. So we just threw that up on Bandcamp. So if anyone wants to hear it, it's darkpalms.bandcamp.com, the second record. Um, and yeah, like every time we kind of thought about coming back to start doing stuff again, like all of our friends who would tour or even play bar and club shows were just getting sick. Like people, I know friends who are in touring bands, they've had COVID 5 times. And it's just, that's always a kind of a risk, when you have family and everything, you don't want to get them sick. So I don't know what that means for the future for that. But by happenstance, we started our magazine like 2 or 3 years before COVID. So um, some of that artistic kind of need goes into the magazine. And I assume you as a musician probably are feeling that now that you're getting like a different kind of artistic fulfillment. How do you balance that if you're still playing?
Oh, well, I mean, my personal life is almost non-existent. I just work. I mean, um, for at least the last year and a half, I mean, I have a day job, and when I'm not at that job, I'm just doing Copacetic. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm betting on, well, one, I feel like I just have to get it out, like I gotta make it happen and make it exist and get it out.
yeah,
And I feel like until I exhaust myself with it, I've got to assume I've got to bet that it's going to be a good investment to
yeah,
keep doing it. But
yeah. Are you still trying to cut records, play or?
I mean, I was just thinking about maybe trying to do something, but I mean, Chattanooga is kind of slim pickings as far as musicians. No one really wants to live here long
Yeah,
term. So, um, I mean, I've considered just cutting my own record, like me doing all the instruments, just doing them one track at a time.
yeah.
But that would be difficult. But it might be a fun art project.
But
But
then
I
it
would need
takes
like
away from
another.
your time from making the magazine.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's a
mean,
tough.
I'm hoping that eventually the magazine will, because I'm also a custom painter. That's mostly what I do for work
Oh, I
outside
see.
of the magazine. So I mean, I'll paint bikes and little random things. I feel like I paint more trophies for car shows than anything now. But um, until something can replace my day job, I don't know what to do. But once that happens, then I feel like if I have 9 to 5 open, then I can fit more in. But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I'm
a
not
it's a
bad.
it's like I think that's the biggest struggle is just there's only so much time, right? Last week I was talking to Carrie from Choppers Magazine. I'm like, well, how do you manage your time with doing shows in the magazine? Like, well, I just don't sleep. So, I mean, I think it's just part of that kind of hustle
Yeah.
um, mindset.
I mean, it's your baby, and if you don't feed it, it'll die.
Yeah,
And um, every time I think, God, there's a message I haven't answered, I just think I'm not doing my job. I gotta get on it.
yeah.
And
What's
um,
your daily like? I mean, like, do you do you kind of devote a specific amount of time, like, you mentally like, I'm gonna do this amount of time on social media, and then, then I have to focus on layout, or do you kind of just play it by what is the most pressing thing at that moment?
uh, well, um, well, at first I was just a big mess, like when I was just trying to do it all. But now I think I've gotten a pretty good pattern where I kind of I'm pretty obsessive, and I make a ton of lists. I mean, I just have like 400 notebooks full of stuff,
Hmm.
and as soon as I start, like, uh, just a couple weeks ago when this third issue came out, as soon as it was done, and I knew that every person that got it, that ordered one, got it. There was nothing else I had to do for issue 3 until we reprint. So, I mean, that day I made a huge list, like an 8-page list, a dream list, what I'm going to do for the next issue. And then I start breaking down, well, if I'm going to do this, then I only have this much time to do that. Like this coming issue, I have to, I've, I've always liked travel stuff.
Hmm.
Um, like a lot of people don't know my references because I guess I just consume old people entertainment. Because I tell people one of my favorite shows on TV is CBS Sunday Morning.
I watch it every
Because
Sunday morning. My wife
yeah,
makes fun of me for it.
it's just 2 to 5 minutes of different stuff
Yeah,
constantly.
for sure.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah,
It's just here's this information, here's this information, and that's what I wanted Copacetic to be. I just wanted it to be my kind of information.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But here's some skateboarding, here's a band, here's a chopper, here's a car. But um, I mean, I really do the social media 24 hours. I mean,
Oh, I
unless I'm
see.
sleeping. I mean, I don't obsess about it. I mean, I'm not always on it, but I do this thing called the song of the day and the movie of the day just because I love music and movies too much.
Yeah,
And I
for
feel
sure.
like every time I tell someone, have you seen this movie? They say, I've never heard of it. And I'm like, well, I'm going to tell people about every movie I like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's easy to do that once a day. And I just go to YouTube and cut out the trailer and put it on there.
Right
But
on.
yeah, people seem to like the vibes thing I started doing, where I just got random pictures. If I know who they are, I tag them. If I don't, I tell people to
Yeah,
tag
I
them
was gonna
for me.
ask you about that. Like, how do you kind of go about that, and do you worry about takedowns? Because there's a lot of like not business Instagrams that kind of do that thing, but you notice sometimes that they get takedowns. Or like, do you ever worry about
I mean,
that
not
aspect of it?
not really, only because nothing's ever happened. Yep, and also anyone that's been identified, they've all been stoked, and we got to know each other.
Oh, right on.
Um, I try. Obviously, I try not to pick something that's off that I know is somebody else's something. I try.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite is just people's individual stuff they put up on Facebook that got put on Pinterest or something. That's what I really try to look for.
Hmm.
But I guess if it ever becomes an issue, I'll stop. But so far, so good. I mean, everyone seems to be into it. No one's said anything negative to me about it yet.
Right on. Yeah. It's one of those like you just hear horror stories of people like massing a lot of followers and kind of get going, and then one asshole's like, "Oh, that's my photo," and then
Yeah,
they go to jail for a while, and then it kind of becomes a problem.
yeah. I mean, I honestly, I didn't even think about that kind of stuff when I started doing it. I just kind of thought I had all these pictures on my phone, thought they were cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, like right now, now that I have the coming issue planned out, and everyone except one person has given me a date to fulfill my story with them. Now that I have a game plan, I'll announce once a day like another thing that's going to be in the
Oh,
next
right on.
magazine,
Yeah.
and that's really it. I mean, while I'm at work at my day job, I mean, I'm a painter at my day job, so
You can't be on the
paint
phone
isn't
really like that because of the paint.
paint. Yeah, I mean, paint isn't the main thing I like about paint, other than getting to make cool stuff, is that it's not constant. I mean, I like the downtime that's built into the
Oh, I
work.
see. Yeah.
It's like, man, this thing is done. It's cleared. I can't touch it for 2 hours till I can move it out to somewhere to bake for a while.
Yeah.
So then I know I got 2 hours. So then I just hop on Instagram. But because I don't have back to back jobs, I'm basically doing like a job a day. So
Oh, I see. Yeah. Are you doing
um,
that out? Do you have like your own setup, your own booth and everything, or you work for a company?
yeah, well, I have anytime I'm here at my house, I'll do my own stuff in my garage, and then I have a day job called Amusement Products that does all kinds of painting. But they also let me do any kind of painting I bring in, which is
Oh,
pretty
right
cool.
on. Yeah. Do you want to give them a shout out on what their social media is?
I don't even know if they have one.
Okay.
This company makes they just make go-karts
Oh,
and
shit.
stuff
Okay.
for amusement parks. Like they'll build roller coaster frames. Uh, they'll build batting cages.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know. It's very
So, I mean, the name itself is what they do. Like, it's
yeah.
not a clever name.
Oh yeah. I mean, uh, the coolest stuff they do is all the mini golf statues and stuff we
Oh,
do.
shit. Yeah.
That's pretty fun. But
Yeah, right on. Do You Even Chopper podcast is made possible in part by the support of Law Tigers Washington, your lawyers for motorcycle injuries, accidents, and much more. You can find more at Instagram/Law Tigers Washington or at lawtigers.com. Thanks for the support, guys. So, I mean, just logistically, when you were talking, I was just thinking, like, how do you handle your reprints?
well, right now we haven't reprinted at all.
Okay.
Um, I had no idea. I mean, when I said I was going to start a magazine, it's just it would be the same as me saying I'm going to become an astronaut. Like I had no idea how I was going to do that, and I had no idea how expensive printing was going to be.
Oh shit,
I
yeah.
mean, I tell people like I struggle with the price because I'm coming like I still remember a time where it was like if a magazine wanted more than $5, it's like, man, who do you think you are?
Yeah, yeah,
But
totally.
and now
It's
it's
tough.
like I guess this magazine's got to be $100. I don't know.
What's your print run?
What do you mean?
Like how many do you print each issue?
Well, it depends. Well, right now we're basically printing about 30% more than what gets pre-ordered
Pre-ordered? Okay.
or what's in our subscriber count.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I really don't know I really don't know how anyone does it without the pre-order money.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, the ad money only goes so far, and there's only so many advertisers for so many chopper magazines. And right now, for small ones, private done ones, there's probably I could name like 10 easily. So, that's 10 people trying to target a lot of the same money. But I really like your magazine's like approach to the ads because you have so many of the skateboard shops and so many of the local interest um kind of companies in it that it really gives a snapshot of you as a person, but also kind of your region in a really like automatic way.
Yeah, and I am. I mean, I am very grateful. I mean, I am not a good salesman. I'm not a good businessman. I mean, I believe in what I do. I believe in Copacetic, but I feel so dirty trying to talk people out of money, like even if I need it.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I the people that have been able to advertise have been. I mean, without them, it wouldn't have happened. But
Yeah.
Um, and most companies that I have reached out to have not only have they said no, but they pretty much said that we're saying no to print forever now. Like no one's getting.
Yeah, I've heard that from some people, and um it's too bad. I mean, the everyone says shit like keep print alive, but when it comes down to it, like the infrastructure there, it's a dying art form. It's really hard to keep going. I
Yeah,
think people don't really realize how hard it is to keep going. I think that's why with this podcast, I'm starting off with a lot of the magazine people, is just to get kind of information out there. People understand more where people are coming from, kind of put um a side to the industry that people just never see. It's all magic, right? Like,
yeah.
but it's not.
I
How
mean,
do
I
you
do.
sorry, go for it, man.
I know you. Oh, I was just going to say. I mean, it's not like I didn't respect everyone before, but after doing a magazine, I had a whole new respect for anyone that ever made one. Because
Yeah.
I had no idea, and especially the people that pump out monthly ones. I have no idea how they do this.
Yeah.
But
Did you do like punk zines?
I did one when I was in high school.
Okay.
But I mean that was super small, super local. But
Yeah.
and that was printing paper at Office Depot and stapling in the middle,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
folding. But
yeah. But
yeah,
I mean, it's in some ways it's no different, but in other ways it's like a totally different world. You still kind of get the same, at least I do. Like I did zines and I get the same feeling when I get a new issue printed that I did when I went to Kinko's and printed out ours.
oh yeah,
It's just that satisfaction of holy shit, it's done and I did it, right?
yeah. I mean, I wish the magazines came out of the box hot like they do from Office Depot.
Yeah, so you
It's
could smell the ink. Are
I
you
mean,
printing locally or are you doing just like a
no,
print center thing?
I go through Printing Center USA in Great Falls, Montana. I
Yeah.
think I think that's where they are.
Yeah. I think they have printers everywhere, that company.
Oh, I don't know,
Yeah.
but
But right on. So I guess my big question for Copacetic is like what's your like 5 issues down the road? Like where do you want to be in a year from now and like what is like your vision of how to get there? Because like you've done the hard work, in my opinion, of getting it out, putting out multiple issues and kind of creating a working kind of rhythm to it. Like how do you kind of grow that in your mind from an editorial standpoint, not necessarily the business standpoint, but like where do you want to see your content go to and how do you want it to grow?
um, yeah. Well, I always knew that Copacetic. I mean, it was going to be Copacetic magazine, but I knew that the magazine itself would only be just one part of everything I wanted it to be. And I mean, I want the brand itself to be just what I wish MTV would have been like back in the day.
Hmm.
Just an overall, like MTV didn't, I mean, it was everything. Like in the 90s for a brief period, and I'm not saying it wasn't corporate soul selling stuff either, but but it was also there was also a ton of fun stuff on it, and I feel like if it would have just given up on a few things and embraced kind of the automotive stuff, that's what Copacetic would be. And
Right on.
I would like to do like I want it to be an all-encompassing cover of the scene I love and my friends love, which is just, punk rock skateboarders that grew up and got into bikes and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like that's so many people. And I do feel like there's a threat of it just being washed away because pop culture just takes everything. Anything that's worth a damn, pop culture just sucks it up and turns it into whatever it wants to. And I prefer it. I just prefer this little thing to stay the way it is. That's all I want.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm not saying we have to save it. I'm just saying all you have to do is identify it. Once people can see it, then they go, "Oh, I know what this is. This is a thing. This is this world." But
Yeah. How do you decide your content? Do you approach people, or is it from submissions? Like, what's your
um,
ratio for that even?
it's probably like 80% me reaching out, 20% people sending in things. We get a lot of submissions from like individuals where they'll send a picture of themselves or their bike or something. And I do put every single one in. I have yet no one's submission has been left out. If it has, it's an
Oh
accident, and
wow.
I'll find it and I'll fix it. But I've been lucky enough to get some act because I mean I do write, I do take pictures, but I feel like a liar saying I'm a photographer because I mean
Yeah.
I just started and I'm just guessing. And I do everything out of necessity. And but I've been lucky enough to find some professionals that have either been affordable for me or have been able to work with me, willing to invest with me in this. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, usually I'll approach people if they're local or somewhat local. I go and I travel. I mean, I travel a lot,
Yeah.
um, and
You're in the
I'm
center of the
thankful.
country too, so I mean, you're kind of in the
I
perfect
mean,
place to.
yeah, it's nice to be. Chattanooga's nice because there's some cool stuff here, but I'm also 2 hours from Nashville, 2 hours from Atlanta,
Yeah.
and I'm a 4 hour plane trip back to Texas. But
Yeah.
like I'll be in Texas next month because we do a travel section, and I need to do Austin or as much of Austin as I can do in a weekend. But um, like this coming issue, I was just wrapping up with a band the other day, that Temple of the Fuzz Witch. I got them confirmed to do an interview. So as soon as they confirm, they're going to come to Chattanooga and play. I'm going to get pictures, do an
Oh,
interview,
right on.
print it up, turn it into an article, and
Yeah.
um, I kind of do it like that. If they're not local to me, I find out I got to know ahead of time what photos can they help me out with.
Mm.
Because if it's like an artist, like I'm talking to an artist in Japan right now, and I can't go to Japan physically,
Yeah.
but I told him, if he wants to do an interview, I'll put all his stuff in there, we'll print it up, and that's how I do long distance stuff. I'll just pull from social media and print and then put their interview in. I try to do local though. I want to do local, but yeah, eventually Copacetic will be a lot of video media. Um, I'm trying to finish getting some of that equipment right now,
Oh,
but
right on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have
It's a good idea.
plans to. I want to do a few documentaries. I want to do like long form video stuff. I want to try making some music videos for bands.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, I
Yeah,
want to
if
do.
you need any kind of an ear, um, that's my education background is in film. I
Okay.
went to film school and stuff, and I don't really use the skill set as much as I probably should. I think anyone who watches these Zoom podcast videos would probably say I could do it better, but I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. I want to just get your voice out there. So, but I'm always willing to give suggestions and help. You know, a bit ago you were talking about like I don't feel like I'm a photographer, but I'm taking these photos, and I would say, well, what is a photographer? Like, there's a a point where, how much is that is like imposter syndrome, and how much of it like is if
Well,
you're doing it and people are buying a magazine of you doing it, when does that kind of switch flip for you? Like that, okay, maybe I do have some kind of a talent for this that I didn't consider before.
I think I have. I mean, I do think I mean, I definitely have an artistic eye, but um, I guess I more or less feel that way just out of respect for my photographer friends that have been doing it forever. I just don't want to be like, I've been doing this for a month. I'm one of you now. But
Yeah,
um, I
a
just,
reverence for it. Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I just come from a spot where in punk rock, like if you just fucking do it, right? Like at a certain point, like I did, like I said, I did go to school for film, but like everything I learned in film school was complete a waste of money compared to what I learned just being punk rock, doing it yourself, from zines to booking shows, making flyers, taking photos at shows to put in your zines. Like that's the kind of education that people should have, and that shit's free, you know.
yeah, I mean, there definitely is something to the just do it. Like, just do it. Like, no excuses, just get it done. And if I didn't force, I mean, I was in the military, so I know how to bring that up in me and just make myself do something. But I think that's it's only thing that works for me. I have to just do it. Like if I sit around and think about it for too long, I won't do it. Um, so I think it's good. I mean, just the other day, I was at a concert getting a picture of Dope Scum, this Doom band that's going to be in the next issue. And
They
the
have
whole
to be a dope
time,
band with that
oh
name.
yeah, uh, they the whole time, I'm just struggling, just trying to figure out how am I going to get all these pictures. And because there's only the set's only so short. I
Yeah.
got to get I got to get a picture of the drummer. I got a picture of the guitarist. Got to get him singing. I got to get whatever picture I need for the spread back shop with their name. And I try to think about the magazine as I'm taking pictures now, which
Oh
is
wow.
something I had to make myself learn.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many times I've been putting together something and I'm like, man, I wish I would have just backed up 5 feet. I could have made this such a better page. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, and then also in shows, like concert photography is difficult, I think, for a lot of people because, if you're too far back and you have too much audience in the foreground, um, then you can miss some of the nuance of like the little nuance of the performance, right? But then you have like the kind of crowd energy in the photo. But if you're right up on the stage, like you kind of miss that crowd energy. So it's like depending on what the vibe for the photo is, it's like a totally different place to put yourself. Your lighting is always going to be, it's hard to shoot because everything behind you is super dark and everything in front of you has blaring lights. And so you have to kind of think through that a bit. It's a really hard way to shoot. And so the fact that you're like thinking about your layouts while shooting, and then those are the kind of obstacles you're facing, and yet you still get them to print, which I think a lot of people don't understand that a photo can look really good um, on Instagram or look really good on your computer on the retina screen or whatever kind of bullshit. But when it actually goes to print, it comes back, you're like, what the fuck? It doesn't
oh yeah,
look like it does on the screen because the way ink is compared to a bunch of LED plasma.
oh yeah. No, I learned that the hard way with the first issue. I mean, I was excited when we got it because this is the first issue,
Yeah.
and you can. I mean, I mean, every picture I took came out pretty good, but some, well, maybe this is a bad example, but yeah, you never know what's going to happen when you enlarge a picture and then have it printed. But or I didn't until I found out, but
Well, and
now I know.
even just the like contrast and things can look hazy when you print them, whereas they didn't look hazy on a computer screen.
Yeah,
And so you have to kind of correct for print, which is also very different than like printing a photo itself. Like you have all of it is like it could be the same image, and whether you're putting it on your computer or it's going to be a print, like a photo print, or it's going to be in a magazine, you have to do slight modifications each time for the media you're doing, and that's a pain in the ass
Oh yeah.
for
I mean,
people,
but
to think through when they're
I
first starting.
also I don't know. I mean, I don't know why, but I do like it. I mean, I love looking at the page spread out and then having all of this stuff and then getting to puzzle it all in. Uh, 'Cause I don't know. It pleases me when I'm done, but
Yeah.
it is a
Let's
puzzle.
let's talk about Mike for a second. Saucer
Okay.
Saucer Man. How did you come across Mike? He does a lot of stuff for us, and I saw in issue 3 you have a pretty extensive interview, which also includes our magazine's name misspelled, but I don't care. I'm just fucking with you.
Um, well, I never met Mike. Uh, there's a guy named Kyle Cole who has a company called Four Up,
Okay.
and he I'm not sure how he knows him, but he knows him somehow. And he either said I'm hanging out with him or I'm going to hang out with him or something. He said, "Do you want me to do an interview and get some pictures and get him in the mag?" And I'm like, "Sure. I mean, I'll take a look at whatever you got." And
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it was really good. The story was good,
Yeah.
and yeah, I always want to fit at least two artists in every issue, and I want artists that kind of I like people that do multiple things in this world. Like, I mean, people that are just into bikes are cool. People that are just skateboarders, just artists, blah blah blah. But people that are like, I'm gonna paint a Black Flag logo on my chopper. Well, that's three things. That's art, that's punk rock, and that's motorcycles.
Yeah, I see
And
what you mean. Yeah.
that's what I'm into. I like
Yeah.
people that are all of it.
Yeah.
But
Here I'll show the camera just so people know who we're talking about. Because they might have seen the art before. And for those who listen to the podcast audio only, he's out of England. He's done art for Choppers Magazine, The Ton Magazine, um, Death Traps MC, a bunch of stuff. So if you're into choppers, you've probably seen his art. Um, and he usually goes to Born Free. So I just you know kind of wondering how that kind of came about to you. Kind of the intersection of content's always interesting, and I think that's something maybe we can talk about for a second. Is how do you kind of gauge whether like to put something in print? Do you ever worry about, oh, someone just ran that article? Because a lot of times we get pitches from someone, and like it's happened at least 3 or 4 times where we're putting it together, and then I see like that month, the same month, like their bike with other photos was in another magazine, or they were doing a interview about their art in another magazine. Like, how do you kind of try and
um,
engage that? Like, do you just go through social media and see if there's other stuff out there, or do you just not care?
uh, well, I don't think I mean, I really don't try to pay attention to a lot of other magazines. Not because I don't care. I mean, I love them. I mean, I secretly love every magazine, but I don't want to be over influenced by other people.
Oh, I see.
And not because I know myself. And if I look at something long enough, I'll memorize it, and then I'll get confused with where I got that idea. And I don't want to take from someone. And but as far as like somebody wearing the same dress as me to prom, I don't know if I don't. It doesn't bother me. If it bothers them, I mean, I'm sorry for them, I guess. But if I did it on accident, I like this past issue, we had a party at the Pen article.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that was in multiple magazines. I'm sure multiple mags had a party at the Pen thing. And
Oh
if
yeah,
they
yeah.
all if they all came out at the same time, I don't mind. That's cool. I
Yeah.
mean, that
But
to
I
me,
mean,
that's just
but do I think do all magazines have Josh Bell's photos at Party of the Pen?
oh
Like you have a different kind of layer
Yeah,
there.
no, they don't, or they shouldn't. But because I did pay for those photos.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, a lot of that's rough. I mean, I always feel bad talking to photographers because when a real photographer, like a good one, approaches me and asks, if I would like to buy something, I'm always, I'm flattered that they're taking Copacetic seriously, especially if it's someone that's done stuff for big magazines that have been big for a long time.
Yeah.
So I respect that, but I also want to be like, we're just starting, and
Yeah.
anything that I buy, I mean, Copacetic barely breaks even. Uh, I mean, a lot of that is just because I'm not doing everything I should be doing. But anytime I buy anything, it's basically out of pocket. I'm just
Yeah.
investing in my business when I do that.
Yeah.
But
I think
uh,
I think that's somewhat common for people just starting with the magazine. I don't think that that's a story that is uncommon, and it'll be interesting as the podcasts go to hear what other people say. But at the same time, I've heard from friends who are, photographers and who work with other magazines, and it's like, well, no one pays really, so anything you can do is a help. That's a weird place to be in because you want to pay as much as you can, right? Like that's like the bottom line because you're helping an artist as someone who's um artistically minded, right? But then it's like you have a business aspect of it, and that often I think for me is the most difficult is I just can't afford you. So that's, and then they'll be like, well, I can take less. And it's like, then you feel bad, right? Like there's
yeah,
a um almost a shame to it, which I don't know if that's the right word, um
I mean
but then you get into the say it's like, well, okay, maybe if I reach into my pocket, and that's like unsustainable
oh
um
yeah,
for a business plan if you want to last multiple years. So I totally feel you on that. I don't know. I feel like a lot of us have been in that situation, and um, it's a tough one. Especially if you like get approached by someone who maybe have a historic element to their photography, like they were a long time shooter for Easy Riders, or um, they have some like museum notoriety, or which we've been approached by that kind of thing, and it's like, okay, well, this is what I can afford. I don't want to insult you, like, but this is like brass tacks, all we could afford. And um, I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling on that one, but it's I think how to pay artists and writers and what is a fair wage based on what the expense to print is, how many copies you're putting out there, what you recoup on sales and ads. That mix is very hard to kind of balance in a way that is equitable to all involved. Like either the artist is gonna get less money, or the it's gonna come out of the pocket of like personal money for the business owner, or the copy price, the print price of the magazine is gonna go up. And like you said, like that's the hardest thing is increasing your print price. Like um every time we've had to consider it, it felt like a dagger in my heart to even consider it.
yeah.
No.
I mean, but I know people starting out magazines. I mean, people have messaged me like telling me I inspired them to do their thing, which is cool. I mean, I said that from the outget. I'm like, everyone should do everything.
Oh yeah,
Anything
more
you've ever
magazine
wanted
the
to
merrier.
do, go do it.
It's a
And
hard thing to do, but everyone should feel like they can, because it's not, once you get past the first issue and you figure out a rhythm for that second issue, like you can do it. Like I think that's the message is like issue one's going to be one of the hardest things. Issue two, you learn from your mistakes and you could do it quicker, and then you kind of know this is what I need to do step by step after that.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't like math, and I don't want to look at it as a formula, but I mean, it is 1 + 1 = 2. If make a plan for it to look a certain way and you want this much in it. You schedule it, you shoot it. I mean, it's I think the hardest thing about a magazine is just getting people to take a magazine seriously. Um, I mean, the average young person, I could not. I mean, they are just not interested. I
Yeah.
mean, all our everyone that buys this magazine, I'm pretty sure they're my age, and I'm almost 40. Um, I think that's going to be normal for a while until who knows? I don't know if anything's ever going to change. But
But
I
you
mean,
do
we all are.
digital too, right? You put this online digital?
The first issue is online. I'm having some issues with the printing company with getting my finalized digital versions.
Oh, I
Uh,
see.
but if I have to, I'll just take these physical copies and scan them and make my own. But eventually, yeah, they'll all be uh, online. But I want to. We're probably going to turn the first four issues, into a book.
Yeah, we've
Which
thought about that in the past too, which I think goes back to the like, what are you doing for reprints kind of question a long time ago. So what we did, we thought about that and we kind of held off at first because um we were printing locally. And so I could print a magazine if I shrunk it down and sold it for a little less than the original price. Without that ad revenue, I wouldn't lose my ass on it. And so I could take those to shows. So we did that for a while. And now we're kind of circling back to like maybe every once in a while, year one, issues 1 through 4, year two, 5 through 8, kind of do that. I think that's sharp. I think that's a great idea, and I'm glad to hear you might consider it too, because I really feel like it would be a shame to not have the tactile thing in your hand, especially early issues where you could see the growth of a magazine before it kind of really gets its stride. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I've looked into it all. I mean, all options have always been on the table. I'm like, if I have to make my house into a printing center, I'll do it. I'll get whatever machine I got to do, but it's just not possible right now. But if I could, I mean, I would start my own. I mean, that's how Thrasher Magazine started. They had independent trucks, and they were like, we want to advertise these trucks, so they started a magazine just to build a truck company.
yeah.
And now they print Juxtapoz magazine and a bunch of other magazines. And I mean, that's awesome. That's the way to go, where no one can tell you what to print. You just print what you want, print at your own price. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Um, Shit, man. I can't believe it's been an hour already.
Yeah, it did go
uh,
by.
I'm not one of the types who listens to a podcast longer than an hour and kind of hate to cut it off, but damn, like it's time's flown by. It's been great talking to you. I'm really stoked for Copacetic. I'm really excited to see where you go from now, and I was really stoked to kind of hear your point of view and how you go about it, man.
Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, man. Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good. It was a good talk. I like doing it.
Do You Even Chopper podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and other podcasting locations. You could also find us at thetunmag.com/podcast. If you'd like to subscribe and support the podcast, feel free to do so. It's not a hard sell, but every little dollar helps. We appreciate it greatly. The magazine itself is a quarterly print magazine published out of the Pacific Northwest, and you can find copies for sale and subscriptions at thetunmag.com/shop. We're on Instagram at the Ton Mag, as well as Facebook, and you can find us on YouTube at the Ton Magazine. Thanks for your support, and thanks for listening.